like all the giant bones of the giant humans,
Or the
And
little people.
say, there's never been any giant humans. Well, okay, 30,000 reports said there have been.
How about little people, too? Mary Joyce claims back, many years ago, when they were building a community college out in North Carolina, that when they were digging and escalating for the college, they found skeletons roughly 6 to 12 inches big of little people. And they took it in. It was in the news, and all of a sudden, some government agency said, we're going to take this in, to preserve it, and then no record of it after that.
Yep. Well, in my book, Giants Against Evolution, I include a chapter in there on little people, modern-day little people that are 20 inches tall, normal people. Oh, there's a little Chinese guy up there in Ohio. We saw his stuff at a museum. He had a little recliner. He was a regular guy, married 2 women, 6 feet tall, I guess, at different times. And he was 20 or 24 inches tall. So why is it so hard to believe in little people? We've got them today. Colonel Tom Thumb was a professional circus guy. So I don't know I have a theory. Yes. I talked to some Indians. They know about little people. This one of the ladies says, we throw our old clothes out on the ground for the little people. People think we're trashy, but we're throwing them out for little people. Well, I don't think she was joking. I read an old history called Blue Mountain Folks when I was on a dig out in Colorado. It snowed on the site, so I went into town and bought a history of that area and came back to my camper waiting for the snow to thaw and read that book. There's a really interesting story in there. 2 little girls back like in 1897 or something out near Dinosaur, Colorado, near that area. I don't think there was a Dinosaur, Colorado then, but anyway, there's a settlement out there, probably cowboys and miners. And there was these 2 little girls, a little white girl that was about 7 or 8 years old, a little Indian girl about 7 or 8 years old. The little white girl one day says, they were talking about what they were going to do to play that day. She says, I know, let's go hunt arrowheads up on this mesa over there. And the little Indian girl says, oh, no, the pick to know will get us. The pick to know. And so, well, that's wild. So I kept looking, and okay, what do they call the little bitty people over in Scotland? The picks. What do they call the little things that fly around with wings in England? Pixies, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of smoke here. There's got to be a fire somewhere. So I put that in my book. Like, look, I've talked to people, said they've seen them. And so a lot of these old fairy tales and stuff, maybe they're not. I just made up stuff to entertain children. I think the reason that little skeletons and all that they can't handle it is because the old Darwin's old theory of a little monkey to man thing. You got the monkey down here that's 20 inches tall. He finally gets to be, a half monkey, and then he gets to be a brown person, then he gets to be a black person, and then finally a white guy or some stupid thing like that. Well, you can't put a little bitty old 18-inch or 20-inch family in there. You can't put a guy in there that's 10, 12 feet tall, because that messes up the little story of Darwin.
It does.
And I think if Darwin were alive today, he would say, yeah, I'm sorry, fellows. I say I'm wrong now, but gosh, they keep up with that old stuff. It's in a fairy tale itself. But there's something to the little people thing, and it kind of gets back to the Indians. I don't know, why is it that everybody's they find some inscription on a cave wall or a painting or an artifact, this has religious significance. This means the Indians believe this and that, or whoever had this. I go, you don't know. It doesn't have any words on it that says this was a religious object, and we have to respect that religion. Well, you don't even know if it's a religion. But you turn around and the Indians talk about fairies. Oh, well, that's just Indians. They don't know anything.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. I thought their religion was really important here. And to me, there's a lot of hypocrisy, and I hate the word racism because I don't think it's really much of a word. But if there is racism, you see it in the universities a lot. And I think it's counterproductive to studying history. If you want to know what people have seen in the past, go talk to them. Indians aren't making stuff up. Africans aren't making stuff up. They may not write it into a slick book like we do, but doesn't mean it's not true. And I'm thankful for all the Bigfoot guys, the UFO guys, the alien guys. They may be, I don't agree with a lot of them, but they're looking, they're asking they're trying to answer these questions. They're real scientists. They're researchers. And that's, I'm all for that. I think that's great. The more we know, the more we know.
Well, I think too, someday there's going to be actual proof that UFOs exist. There's going to be proof that we're being visited by aliens. I think someday there'll be proof that Bigfoot exists and all this other stuff. I mean, it's been if you look at all the world, all the different countries, different locations, the reports of Bigfoot are everywhere. Little people, there's stories from United States all the way to China to, New Zealand. Little people, the same thing. I mean, how would these stories been spread unless things existed at one point or do still exist?
Well, to me, that's it's like the preponderance of evidence in a court trial. Maybe you didn't. You can be convicted on enough evidence like that, or circumstantial evidence. I don't know how many tens of thousands of reports you got to have of Bigfoot, Yowie, Sasquatch, Abominable Snowman, etc., before it's true. There's not 30,000 or 100,000 people making these stories up. Like you say, they're everywhere. The stories are all similar, so no, they're not making it up. If they're telling you something they saw, there's something to it. And, most people aren't religious in this whole thing. They're not church people. They're not thinking about that sort of stuff, but I am. So I'm thinking, okay, does the Bible say anything about Bigfoot, little people, UFOs, aliens? God, if it's got to say something. So I'm always looking at it from that angle. And, you look long enough, if you understand your subject well enough, you'll finally, and your Bible well enough, you'll finally see, yes, there is something in there to it. And there's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, that even Christian people, they don't want to talk about stuff like Bigfoot. It's just too creepy. Well, it's not like, if you believe in God and God created everything, either he created Bigfoot or were you going to explain him? You can't say just, well, it does exist. Yeah, well, okay. Then ancient aliens will tell everybody what it is.
Well, you put it this way. I mean, look at all the people that have gone vanishing in the national forest, not just here in Canada, United States. We're talking tens of thousands of people in the last 60 years. I can't see them all falling off a cliff, Joe. I don't see them getting swept down a river, not that many of them. And I don't think there's enough serial killers out in the woods to whack that many people off. Something has happened to these people where they when they have found the remains, the bones in some of these cases have been stacked up nicely. The clothes were, just kind of like taken all off and put in a little neat pile. Strange things. It's out there, and people can sit there and brush it by. Oh, hey, if you don't see it, it doesn't exist, right? Yep.
Yeah. If I haven't seen, I had this state paleontologist tell me one time. I called him about some buffalo bones on a lady's ranch, and what was the best protocol and all that sort of thing. And he says, well, unless a scientist with a PhD sees them and photographs them, they might as well wash on down the drain. If I could have slugged the guy through the phone, I would have. That is just asinine. So if a PhD sees it, then it's true. But, how many of those guys are ever out in the woods? Very few of them.
No.
They stay in the classroom. But case in point, to the contrary, you know about the Lubbock Lights here in Lubbock Lights phenomenon?
No.
You know that story?
No.
It's considered one of the top big UFO things in the world. It happened back in 1951, I think. There were these three college professors from Texas Tech College at the time, university now. They were sitting in the courtyard of an adobe house that had been built by a professor. And this older gentleman, old professor, they're all back there smoking cigars. It's their little night to get together. And it's in the evening. And all of a sudden, this one old fellow jumps up. Wow, what is that? And it's this V-shaped configuration of lights. And I think there's more than one of them. Started coming over Lubbock and flew to the south. And this professor said, you know, at the rate of speed they're going, they'll come back around. And they did. The reason I know this is a couple of weeks ago, I went over to that house and spent some time with Dr. Meredith McLean, who's one of my Buffalo Bone customers, who's now retired, but she taught German Slavic languages. And she lives in the house now and knows the story very well, was telling me all this stuff. So there was a photograph taken. Some kid had a camera and took the photograph. And that's the Lubbock Lights. They even have a music festival now called that. They have a magazine called Lubbock Lights. Can't be denied. Why? Because three professors with PhDs saw it with their own eyes, reported on it, so therefore it's true. Okay? Well, that's enough, isn't it? I mean, that proves if those are real, probably the rest of them are real. You probably know Dr. Jeff Meldrum.
Yes.
Bigfooter?
Yes.
Okay. You know, he was sort of, I think he was sort of forced into doing something with it because they showed him all these tracks out there and he, oh, wow, yeah, it's real. And he did the scientific process, you know, did all the protocol, showed it to his peers, wondering what they're going to do. And they said, well, okay, you did everything right. So they accepted it. Well, okay, if PhD Jeff Meldrum says Bigfoot left his tracks, it's a fact, right? But it's like all these the living dinosaurs, you know, they're out there too. Please, again, you don't have thousands of reports by people who have no reason to make up a story about living dinosaurs, and there is nothing there. You know, it's like Bigfoot always being a bear. Well, people that are out in the woods, Indians and Africans and people over in Russia, they know a difference between a bear and something else. So when they say, no, it wasn't a bear, it wasn't a bear. But anyway, the academic community holds sort of the keys to the kingdom. They won't go in and won't let anybody else in, as it were. And every now and then, they see it themselves. They come across it themselves, and it's a fact.
Yeah, that's how. Hey, our show is almost gone. Again, you want to tell people where they find your book?
You go to www.mountblanco.com. That's MTBLANCO.com. Everybody wants to say Mount Blanco. I go, if you say Mount Blanco, you got to say Monte Blanco. That's the Spanish. We anglicize it. Because we're redneck Texas out here, we can't say Spanish. But it's mountblanco.com. And pretty soon I'll publish on the Ice Age stuff I'm doing. I'm doing several murals. So I'm researching a lot of Ice Age things right now. And I'm going to have to say, as an artist, I've got a definite opinion about Ice Age people. And if you ever want to do a show, I'll be glad to. When I get some of this stuff done, I'll be glad to share it with you because it's not like we're told.
Well, that's what we need to do. And I was planning to do a little bit of that tonight, but we ran out of time. So I guess that we will have to get you back on. Now, how's the museum coming? Did you ever get the roof fixed on that?
Well, we've raised enough money. We had some guys came in the other day and patched the worst spots where the really big hail came. And I think we've got the area where I'm painting these murals. I think that's secure now for drainage or leaks. My brother is planning to do quite a bit of the rest of it with another type material if it'll quit raining. But it's just been raining for months here, you know, ever so often. So when he get up there, we're going to get the rest of it. We probably don't have enough money yet to do the whole thing, but we're trying to get on top of it. But golly, it's a mess. I had a friend today. In fact, the drummer for the band I used to be in